This is Men Talk Mental Health. I am Ayush Shuda Banker, and with me, as always, is Vinance Samson Roche. Today, we talk therapy. So I step out of the elevator, and it's this weird carpeted hallway. It kind of feels like the opening of like the Matrix with Neo in his office, right? The lights feel kind of greenish, and it's really strange because the every door looks the same except for a number next to it that's slightly different. And I finally find the number that I'm looking for. I open the door and I walk through it, and it's this weirdly comfortable room, slightly warmer than it was before in the hallway. And there are two comfortable chairs, and I sit there on one of them. I pick up the paperwork and I start filling it out. Some strange questions, but it's whatever. And my heart's kind of pounding. I'm not sure what to expect. I know somebody else is going to be joining me, but I still don't know what to expect. It's my first time. I look around the room and there's like this soft jazz music playing. Not elevator music, but soft jazz. It's actually good jazz, but soft jazz. And I look over at the wall, I see some paintings, and I see these five little kind of nameplates with little red lights next to it and a switch. In my mind, I'm like, what is that? Anyway, so I go ahead and I start filling out the paperwork. My partner walks in, she sits down and starts filling out her paperwork. I'm done with mine. My heart's pounding, my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. But put all that together, and I'm super nervous about what to expect. Right, I have no clue what to expect from this. I turn on that switch next to the name that I recognize. A couple minutes later, door opens. My therapist is there. I see her for the first time, and I walk into the room, and it's this wonderfully comfortable room. It's spacious. It has high ceilings. It's like on a nice floor. It has a beautiful view. The curtains get drawn. There's candy on the side. I get asked if I want some water or a soda or coffee or tea. And like there's this really comfortable couch, and I sit on it. My wife sits next to me, and it's really comfortable. But I'm also really uncomfortable. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at this person. We start this session, and I'm in my head about what to expect, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And before I know it, the session begins. And while I'm ruminating and thinking, there's a gap in the curtain. I can see we're on a high floor, and I can see like the roof of like a another building that's like really far away, and I can see like somebody randomly hanging clothes on it or something. I don't even know what it was. It's so long ago I can't remember probably, but it's like a random thing. Like that's where my mind was spaced out in the weird spaces in those sessions where things were awkward and I didn't want to really face it. But the more I kind of went into it, the session continued and questions were asked, and I started asking myself, how honest do I want to be? How honest I want to be with myself? How honest do I want to be with this person? How honest do I want to be with this partner who I've been honest with my whole life? And before I'm able to answer any questions, not to the therapist, but like to myself, the session comes to an end and it's over too soon. I have no answers. I'm like, I have to come back next week to figure out where this goes. And it's really a, a surreal experience. And I walk out into that same hallway. I look back and I'm like, I guess that was my first session.
So I receive an email. There are a bunch of forms. I start filling those forms. General questions and then some pretty hard hitting questions. For example, who is your next of kin just in case, I need it needs to be reported. in case I am going to be harmful to myself, and so on and so forth. I send the forms back. The day gets approved, the appointment gets fixed, and I book an Uber and I'm on my way there. It's a nice, pleasant day just after lunchtime. I reach this lovely locality, and it's a residential building. I take the lift and I reach the apartment, and I ring the bell and the door opens, and there's a lovely lady there welcoming me. It's an apartment, a typical Bombay apartment converted into an office. A comfortable sofa, great light, and she sits on the sofa in front of me. I can see certificates on the wall, can see a whole bunch of qualifications, and we begin. I'm definitely nervous, but I'm also excited to find solutions for the debilitating anxiety that had taken over my life at that point of time. We start talking. She starts asking me a bunch of questions. I start telling her about my background, my family, my work, my past relationships. And we start going deeper into my past relationships, the different women that I've dated, why those relationships came to an end, so on and so forth. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what does this have to do with my anxiety? When do we actually start figuring out solutions? And that's it. The session comes to an end. We fix the appointment for the next session, and that's it. That was my first session with the therapist. I left feeling proud of myself that I finally went to the therapist after years of contemplation. But it also made me wonder, when do we actually start working on the important issue at hand?
On that front, I completely have to agree with you that I had a similar thought in terms of. So that was the first session, and I'm here to save my marriage, but my marriage is not saved. So what the. And I completely get your point of view, but I'll say this, that the difference is, I think my therapist in that moment was very clear about how the procedure would work opening up. She laid out the terms of, and it was couples therapy. That's how it started for me. So it was the terms of, okay, there is no secrets between you and I, or you and us, and we talk about everything openly with each other. We don't hide anything from the other. So if I tell something in confidence to the therapist, my wife is supposed to know it. We talk about how the first sessions are going to be about getting to know the past, the relationship, history, and then we'll slowly move into what's going on. So there was this sense of like, okay, this is your path. This is what we are going to do. This is the plan, which spoke to me, and I know would have spoken to you too because we're both planners. So knowing the roadmap really helps because we're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So then there's no stress in my mind about
Yes.
when are we getting here? Why are we here? What are we doing? And I think that is something that you lacked in yours. But for me, the expectation was set early on, so I didn't have to worry about it. Even though I wondered it, like you did, but at least I knew that okay, at
Yeah.
least I know that this person's going to get to it at some point. I was not left wondering the way you were.
That's true. I don't think there was an expectation that was set. I did speak to a therapist friend before that, so I had an idea of what would possibly go on at these sessions, but there was no expectation setting done
Right.
beforehand, like in your case. And one of the big differences between your experience and my experience was I actually asked my therapist in the second session, I asked her, I said, okay, this anxiety that I'm experiencing is really hampering the quality of my life, is bothering me a lot. Can you suggest some tools? And she did suggest an exercise that I could do, when I'm feeling extremely anxious, which is basically look around the room, make a note of what's there, then focus on maybe colors, what is brown in color, what is blue in color, and basically, I guess it's a form of distraction or rather bringing you back into the present and out of your mind. But it was something that was provided just off the cuff. It wasn't a solution per se. And she went on to say that we will work on getting to the root cause of your anxiety. And she went on to say that you can Google different exercises, you can go online and find different exercises that will help you. But I look at it as band aid and just a temporary fix. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. I'll look for the temporary fixes, but we can continue to do the deep work to find out what the root cause of my anxiety really was.
I understand where your therapist is coming from, and absolutely, I think in retrospect, even you would agree that the root cause is obviously what we're looking for. But if I were to jump ahead a little bit in my experience from where I began, my couples therapy ended pretty fast, and I very quickly went into individuals therapy with the same therapist. And one of the main reasons why I did that was because this was the only person who had seen the true reason why I was in therapy in the first place. So there was already this sense of nobody around me really understood why I was going to therapy, but my therapist, strangely enough, did. You know, so there was this very isolated person who had a connection that nobody in my life really had, and that was something that I was able to express with this person alone because she was able to see what happened between my wife and I, and everyone else around me, I had to explain it. So as I move forward in individuals therapy, one of the first things I learned about this kind of learning and growth was yes, the root cause is important. Yes, we want to tackle that, but sometimes it's really important to deal with first aid. That's why it's called first aid, because you need first aid first, right? Like that's why you call the ambulance. And sometimes the ambulance has to stabilize you before they can take you to the hospital, because otherwise you'll die on the way only. And now, of course, this is an exaggeration in terms of death. You're not gonna die, but um, I found that it made a difference in the fact that I was able to address those initial issues that were occurring or bubbling up on a very regular basis. And I was able to learn simple ideas like if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So if a plane is going down and your loved ones are right next to you, right? Your ailing mother or your ailing parents are right next to you. We're running out of oxygen. The oxygen mask drops. If you try to help your parents get the oxygen mask on first, guess what happens? You pass out. But if you get your oxygen mask on yourself first, you have time to help them. They will not starve of oxygen in that much time. But because you're the healthier person at this point, you need to make sure you're yourself. It's the same thing where when there's a car accident, there's a really high chance of a family member getting into a car accident as well because they're rushing to save that person. And in that process of rushing to save or help the person, they make it worse. And that's why I think that my therapist was able to help me understand that and address some of those things initially. It helped, like she was available for me when I needed her to be. She was available for first aid when I needed it. Our sessions were very flexible. I was able to text and say that, hey, you know what, I'm hoping I can do a session with you today. It was very respectful, very professional, but it was also very much like being able to call a friend and being like, hey, you know what, I'm having a really difficult evening. Do you think you have time this evening for a session? Could we do one? And she'd be like, no, I can't do this evening, but I'll tell you what, I have a lunchtime open. Let's do 12 o'clock tomorrow. And sometimes I'd say, you know what, this is an emergency and I need to speak to you tonight. And I'd do a session at 8 o'clock in the evening, after work. And it was vital for us to get there. So some of those were the most important sessions that I did. And her flexibility really made a difference for me in terms of helping me understand that initial really traumatic phase and then moving into a more stabilized kind of form of therapy.
It was definitely different for me because there were times where I felt like I needed to talk to my therapist ASAP, and I would reach out, but slots weren't available. And I hear that's the case with quite a few therapists in Bombay. They're all booked out. So I would get a slot, and I know she would try her best to figure out the slot which is closest. But at times it would be closer to the original slot that it was fixed for because I had a fixed schedule. It began with once a week, on a Sunday, and then eventually I moved to once every 2 weeks. But you know, it taught me something valuable, and that is I learned to not immediately latch on to support or help. I learned to just sit with myself. Okay, what am I feeling? All right, let's not dismiss it. Let's not push it under the carpet. Let's not resist it. Let's not overthink this either. Let's just sit with it, make a note of it, and if needed, I would bring it up before my session, and or rather at my session. What I would do before every session was I would write an agenda because I wanted to cover these particular points at the session. So very different, I would say, approaches and availability by the therapist. But it, in my case, I do look at it as something that did help me, and I know it helped you, your situation, and your therapist availability, sort of almost therapist on call availability, did help you. And for me, it also taught me how to sort of be resilient on my own, wait it out, and then when the session comes in, discuss my points. And it helped me not be, I would say, overly dependent, because I asked myself this question: how much do I want to depend on the therapist? And this cadence or this frequency helped me quite a bit in the long run.
It's a question that I've asked myself as well. And I did ask actually, I asked my therapist as well. I was like, am I doing therapy too often? Am I going off the cuff here and just randomly calling you? Like, is this too much? And
Yeah.
that's kind of why I love my therapist so much, and why I stuck with her through so much, is simply because like her response was no. Sometimes there are times in your life where you just need the help, you need the support, and that's my job. That's what I'm here for. And it really was for me a very important void that was filled by my therapist. I think I had a few friends who were very vital to me. And again, I, I don't want to form a comparison between our situations because there isn't one, even though we have parallels. But for me, my life was really literally going down the bin, right? Like everything I had built was falling apart in front of my eyes. I was suffering grief at as much of a level as you could possibly imagine. I think, at least for me, it was the strongest sense of grief I'd ever felt, and the strongest sense of loneliness and hopelessness that I'd ever felt in my life. Having this person was very much a void that was left in my life by what I was missing, and this person filled it in a, not in the same way, but in the same but different way. And it was vital for me to help me be able to move forward. You were vital as a friend in providing support, perspective, and all these difficult situations. But my therapist was also there along with a few other friends, and I would constantly talk about the dynamic between my friends and I, and my therapist and I, with each of us. Like, I would actually have this kind of r- go around merry-go-round conversation with each of you about what I was telling the each other. And it was a very interesting point of view and perspective to receive from how each person perceived what I was telling the other person. And I know it sounds very convoluted, but it
Yeah.
it was very
Yeah.
interesting for me as a human being just to see how different people were perceiving the same things that I was telling them. And my therapist really was there at a difficult situation and a difficult time in my life, and was able to really give me the help and the tools that I needed to survive them. There were times where my sessions were not therapy at all. They were just me being hopeless, and my therapist was just company, keeping me company when I was at my lowest point in my life, you know? And there were times when you were the same, and there were times when I had other friends who were the same. But my therapist essentially became like a friend. It wasn't somebody who I put on a pedestal. It wasn't somebody who I wanted to hold back. It was somebody who I challenged constantly. And she challenged me constantly in the way I saw things, the perspectives that I held when I was angry. She would constantly push back on, well, what about this perspective? What about that perspective? What do you think about this? And it's really important, I think, because I want perspective from my friends. I think that's why we are friends, because I don't want you to be a yes man for me. I want you to call me out on, like, I'm gonna call you up and be like, hey Venance, am I fucking crazy? Or does this make sense to you? And you'll be like, yeah bro, this is crazy. Or you'll be like, no, you know what, I think this is what it is. And we are very honest with each other, but I think my therapist was also
Yeah.
just as honest. And that's why my best friends, my closest friends, and my therapist are my therapists, because they were able to give me the perspective that I needed, and allowed me to be accountable for a lot of those things when I need it. And I think perspective is really important, because I've seen a lot of people go through therapy and then stop therapy. Very often, when that happens, it's for many reasons, but I think perspective is so important. It's such an important factor in how you experience therapy, how you go through therapy, and how you perceive therapy, because the conversations that you're having are about perspective. It's about giving yourself perspective, because you really don't know what other people are thinking. You don't know what other people are experiencing. It's really hard for you to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. No matter how much you pride yourself in being able to do that, it's difficult. And I pride myself in being able to do that. Trust me, I really do. But it's still, there are angles I don't think of. And I need sounding boards. I need other people. And a therapist is a professional. It's also why getting a great therapist and somebody you really trust is so important. But perspective is absolutely key.
I agree. I think the perspective that I received from my therapist was vital in my journey of recovery. And I stuck with her for a long time. I did almost 37 sessions, I think, over a span of a year. And after a point, we actually stopped talking about anxiety because we had covered it in the first 2, 3 months. And then I said, you know what, let's get into other aspects of my life. And we spoke about so many different things. But I did not see my therapist as a friend. For me, I did place her as a professional. I know you did too, but I did place her on this little pedestal of a professional. Like what you would do with a doctor, you would go to a doctor and you would want solutions. Over time, our rapport was pretty good. It did, I think, just you know me as a person, I think I get along with people quite quickly. I use my empathy and so on. But here, as a therapist, she was really good at listening and being empathetic and giving her perspective, which was super valuable. I learned so much about myself. There were so many insights. I learned so much about my relationships through the process. And I don't think that your way is the right way and or my way is the right way. I think everyone has different experiences, everyone has different journeys with therapy. And see, we are primarily talking about talk therapy as well, but there are other forms of therapy that you and I have not experienced. You know, movement therapy and music therapy and so on and so forth. And they are all professional therapists. They just use different forms because not everybody can talk like you and me can to a person and get it out of our systems and get perspective. But I do believe that therapy is for everybody. I think it is for everybody, even if you are in a so called decent place in life, because it gives you so much of insight and so much of perspective. I call it inner travel. I used to work in the travel industry for many years, and I would see a lot of people traveling and then putting up these blog posts saying, I discovered myself because of travel, and travel has this effect of getting you out of your comfort zone and getting to know yourself better. And I honestly never had that experience when I was traveling. Also, I was traveling for work. I was the one executing these trips, or I was doing a recce, I was doing research. So maybe it was just very different for me. But therapy was that for me. It reminded me of those blog posts of people discovering themselves because I was going deeper and deeper, going back to my childhood, looking into my relationships, looking into the dynamic of those relationships. And it was inner travel for me. And It was during the lockdown, so we all were confined to our spaces. And as you know, the lockdowns in India have been very strict. And the first lockdown, especially, I think a lot of us, at least the ones who were responsible, took it quite seriously and barely stepped out. So for me, I was traveling in my mind. I was doing that journey that usually people do maybe by themselves on a road trip or on a trek. I was doing it in the confines of my parents' bedroom in this little, I guess, 3 foot by 3 foot balcony. And every Sunday, 2 to 3 p.m., was the session with the therapist. And yeah, some sessions made me feel great. Like post session, I'd feel really light. And some sessions would make me feel really heavy because of the things we discussed. And we would always leave with things that I needed to work on or think about. So I'd write down these questions and she would say, why don't you think about this and we'll talk about it during the next session if you want to talk about it. So, yeah, I think inner travel is the way I would sum it up for myself.
I can tell you that as somebody who has traveled, I think I would consider myself fairly well traveled. I'm definitely not the best traveled person on the planet by far, but I've lived on a few different continents. I've experienced cultures in different places, and I think that I agree with you that it does give you perspective, but I don't think that just traveling gives you perspective. I think potentially, in my opinion at least, living for a certain period of time in a new environment with a new language or a new culture gives you that perspective, right? Because you're forced to do things that you've never done before. You're forced to learn ways of life that you've never learned before. Things that you thought were okay are no longer okay. So for me, travel is great in terms of vacationing and all of that, but really living in a different space. I know this is a little tangential to what we're talking about, but I feel like that has been my experience personally. But I think it adds even more credibility to what you just said, which is inner travel, because regardless of the fact that I've done this, therapy was still a journey for me that I needed to do regardless of all the physical travel that I'd done. Like, it didn't matter that I'd lived in Europe or that I've set up a home base now in the States and that I grew up in. Like, none of that matters. Like, I needed to do this journey and I needed the help and I needed guidance and I needed support and I needed all of these support systems in order to be able to take this journey because I could not do it by myself. I needed literal crutches. I needed a wheelchair at times. I needed a stretcher with four people carrying me. Put all of that together, and yes, I was able to take a journey and travel from point A to point wherever you want to call it. And the truth is that I'm still traveling. Like, I am still doing therapy. I'm still moving forward. It's For me, it feels like a never-ending journey. Though I'll say that eventually I think it will end. But then there'll be new things to discuss eventually.
I think it's also okay to take a break from a therapist or therapy in between, just because it is possible that you could get tired and or you may want to take a break from all the work that you're doing because it can get tiring at times, and I think that's absolutely fine.
I believe that life is gonna throw weird curveballs at you, man. And based on my experience so far, my life. Like, I've had curveball after curveball, and yet
Yeah, for sure.
it still feels like all I can expect are more curveballs. You know what I mean? You'd think that at this point I've run out of my quota. Like, enough have been thrown at me. Enough googlies have been thrown at me, but still, I'm always
Yeah.
expecting the next one around the corner. And therapy has been an amazing journey for me. I know that our therapist experience were not exactly the same, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, what matters is the experience that you take out of it. It's like a saying that people have told me about going to college for education, and it's like, or some people tell me, oh, you don't need to go to college, you don't need to do this. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's what you take out of your experience, right? You are actually paying for what you
Yeah.
want to take out of those services, out of those professionals, out of those guidances, those libraries, those resources.
Right.
And it really is up to you, because therapy is about what you bring to the table. It's about how much
Right.
effort you put into those sessions, because you can go to a therapist and be like, hey, I'm here, and you can show up, and showing up is amazing. That's the first step. But I'll tell you what, the next time you go for a job interview, go to the job interview and tell the person you're interviewing, hey, guess what, you know what, dude, I showed up. Does that get you the job? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not gonna get you the fucking job.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta do the work. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go in with a plan like Vinance and I did, because we drove a lot of our therapy sessions. I'm not saying you have to go in with a plan and have an expectation of what the session's going to be, and that's all about finding the right fit and the right therapist for you, right? It's about finding somebody where I am the kind of person who's willing to come up with an agenda. I want to be in control of it. Sure, but then don't be offended if somebody is trying to push you in a direction or trying to navigate you to explore a different path. I need somebody who's going to pull information out of me because I'm not very open about my emotions. That's fine. Find the right therapist. You know, the whole point of therapy is to go in with an open mind, to really be open to what is coming your way. And the moment you say, you know what, I don't really think I need therapy, or you say, I don't want therapy, or I'm tired of talking and I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over again, it's basically just, I think, giving up, right? Because it's about finding the right fit, you know, because everybody has issues. We've had issues since we were children. Our parents were not perfect. I know mine weren't. And you know, and these are issues that you can deal with and solve, and your life will feel better and you will feel better for it. But you have to bring yourself to that table. Showing up is the first part, but then being a part of it, I think, is probably the next part. So I really think that being able to give yourself energy and impact, and kind of be proactive in your own therapy and your own mental health is going to serve you better.
Mm.
And after all these years, I'm still doing therapy.
We'll get into details of how we met our respective therapists in the next session. Going back, music has always been an important part of my life. I know it's been an important part of Ayush's life. He is a musician, he's a drummer, and for me, I've always been involved in the space. My first job was that of an artist manager right out of college. And during the whole mental health journey, I found a lot of solace in music. Whether it was panic, I realized when I would listen to music, I would stop panicking. And during different stages of my mental health journey, there were certain songs that resonated with me. And I'm the kind of listener who sometimes, actually, most often, I don't pay attention to lyrics. It's about what the song makes me feel as a whole, the voice, the music, the beat, so on and so forth. So we've been making a collaborative playlist together. It's called the MTMH playlist. It's up on our Linktree, which is, you'll find it in the bio of our YouTube page. You'll find it in the, I think, in almost on all bios wherever our podcast is. I'll make sure that it's up there if not. And we'd love to have people add in and put in their own tracks. You don't need to explain why, but if you want to, you can. We're all yours. We're ready to listen. So find that playlist, and even if you don't want to add and you just want to listen to the songs we put, that's amazing. I think go ahead and do that. That's the whole purpose. It's a collaborative playlist. We want people to listen to it. We want people to add into it if they feel like it. And if you have any questions, definitely reach out to us at askmentalk@gmail.com. I would also take this opportunity to thank all our listeners on behalf of Ayush and I for joining us from the first episode till now. It's been an amazing response. We are actually pleasantly surprised, and we're glad that our podcast has resonated with quite a few of you. And if you're just joining in today, welcome. I hope you find something in here which is useful and which can be a takeaway. On that note, I think Ayush, I think we should bring this episode to a close, and the next episode will be an interesting one. We share our journeys about how we met our respective therapists, which is, I think, a question that a lot of my friends have. They keep asking me, "Oh, who's your therapist, and how did you figure this out?" And I actually have a little note of bullet points because I kept sort of repeating the same thing. So I said, you know what, let's make this simple. And I'll talk about that in the next episode. And obviously, you will talk about your experience. And yours was an interesting journey because you went from couples therapy to individual therapy. So yeah. On that note, let's bring this to a close. And here's Reese Sebastian with our OST for the podcast.